legendary ass-kickers of yore. Bill Waugh, the Green Beret who never stopped hunting. Some men wear the uniform. Some earn respect. A rare few become legends. Bill Waugh became something even rarer, a warrior whose career stretched across more than half a century, from the battlefields of Korea to the mountains of Afghanistan. Long before America declared a global war on terror, Billy Waugh had already spent decades hunting the men who threatened it. Born in Texas in 1929, William Billy Waugh came of age in a generation shaped by war. He enlisted in the U.S. Army after World War II and quickly found his calling in the newly formed Special Forces. In those early years, the Green Berets weren't yet household names. They were pioneers, building an organization designed to fight unconventional wars in the shadows, far from newspaper headlines. That world suited Billy Waugh perfectly. He wasn't interested in medals or fame. He wanted difficult missions, impossible odds, and teammates he could trust with his life. Vietnam would give him all three. As America's involvement deepened, Waugh became one of the legendary operators serving with Special Forces and later MACV-SOG, the highly classified organization tasked with conducting reconnaissance, direct action, and intelligence missions deep inside enemy territory. Their teams crossed borders that officially didn't exist, gathering intelligence, rescuing downed airmen, disrupting enemy supply lines, and surviving against overwhelming odds. Every patrol carried the understanding that capture often meant torture or execution. Many missions were never acknowledged. Success was measured by coming home. In November 1965, during the Battle of Bong Son, Waugh found himself leading soldiers against a much larger North Vietnamese force. The fight became one of the defining moments of his career. He was hit again. And again. Bullets tore through his legs, his arm, his foot, and even his head. Bleeding heavily, he continued directing the battle until his body simply refused to continue. Enemy soldiers believed he was dead. They stripped him of his equipment and left him where he had fallen. Against every expectation, he survived. The battle would later become famous when his commander, Captain Paris Davis, displayed extraordinary heroism while repeatedly returning into enemy fire to rescue his men. Davis would eventually receive the Medal of Honor for those actions decades after the battle. Waugh received the Silver Star and continued adding to a collection of decorations that eventually included 8 Purple Hearts. Most soldiers would have considered that enough. Billy Waugh didn't. After recovering from wounds that would have ended almost anyone else's military career, he returned to Vietnam and joined MACV-SOG, volunteering for some of the most dangerous assignments the United States conducted during the war. He also helped pioneer combat halo parachuting, proving that high-altitude, low-opening insertions could place small teams deep inside denied territory with remarkable precision. Today, halo operations are a standard capability among elite military units around the world. When Billy Waugh was doing them, they were still experimental. By the time he retired from the Army as a sergeant major in 1972, he had already accomplished enough for several lifetimes. For Billy Waugh, it was only half-time. The Central Intelligence Agency quickly recruited him into its Special Activities Division, where his experience in unconventional warfare proved invaluable. Once again, he stepped into a profession where success remained classified and failure often became international news. Over the following decades, Waugh operated across Africa, the Middle East, and other regions where America's interests quietly intersected with growing terrorist organizations and insurgent movements. Among the men he pursued was the notorious international terrorist Carlos the Jackal. Later, during the 1990s, Waugh found himself assigned to Sudan. His target was a wealthy Saudi extremist who was steadily building an international terrorist network. His name was Osama bin Laden. Long before most Americans had ever heard that name, Billy Waugh was watching him. Living under cover, Waugh and his team conducted surveillance, studying bin Laden's routines and movements. Years later, Waugh reflected that he had once been close enough to kill him with nothing more than a rock. But those were not his orders. His mission was to observe. History would take a different path. Then came the 11th of September, 2001. The attacks changed America overnight. Young soldiers rushed to recruiting stations. Experienced veterans volunteered to return. Billy Waugh was 71 years old. An age when most people are enjoying retirement, spending time with grandchildren, or telling stories about the adventures they once had. Billy Waugh wasn't interested in telling stories. He wanted to make more of them. Working once again alongside CIA paramilitary officers and US Special Forces, he deployed to Afghanistan during the opening stages of Operation Enduring Freedom. In the rugged mountains where America launched its first response to the attacks of September 11th, one of the oldest men in theatre was also one of its most experienced. His age mattered far less than his judgment. The younger operators around him were standing beside a man whose combat experience reached back to Korea. He had spent decades fighting America's enemies before many of them had even been born. Across more than 50 years of service, Billy Waugh witnessed the evolution of modern warfare unlike almost anyone else in American history. He fought communist armies during the Cold War, conducted covert operations across multiple continents, hunted international terrorists before terrorism dominated the nightly news, and returned to combat after most men had accepted retirement. His story isn't one of extraordinary luck. It is one of extraordinary commitment. Again and again, whenever his country needed experienced men willing to step into dangerous places, Billy Waugh answered. He rarely sought recognition. Much of what he accomplished will likely remain classified forever. But among Green Berets, Rangers, CIA paramilitary officers, and countless members of the Special Operations community, his reputation became almost mythical. Not because he talked about what he'd done, because everyone else did. Some warriors measure their careers in deployments. Others measure them in medals. Bill Waugh measured his by the next mission. And when that mission came, regardless of his age, he was already packing his gear. Some men serve. Some become legends. Bill Waugh became the standard by which generations of quiet professionals measured themselves. This has been another episode of Legendary Ass Kickers of Yore.